Hello and welcome to another episode of Raise the Bar. It's Thanksgiving week on Monday, and this is the only one I'll be doing this week. Very pleased to have Mr. Holden Gerth. He is joining us here soon in the green room. He is from the University Mount of Olives, that is in North Carolina. He competed for 4 years at another school and then transferred there for his graduate year. And you'll be hearing all about that from him. He is a career best of 208. It's 206 or 208, but has jumped 214 in practice. He's a javelin thrower also, but his main event is the high jump. And we're just going to jump in there and talk with them and have a good time. And we'll take it from there. So listen up as we join and talk to Holden Gerth. How you doing, man?
Not too bad. Just got out of practice. Got some food. Feeling good.
Awesome. Hey, so it's Holden Gerth. Is that how I say your name?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'll do a little mock send up later. I usually like to get talking and then I can always do my own opening later. But and where are you going to school, Holden?
Now University of Mount Olive.
Yeah, that's
Just
right. That's right. I
Yeah,
looked
just
it up.
transferred
North
here
Carolina?
Yes, sir.
North Carolina. Awesome. And where did you grow up?
I kind of split time between Memphis, Tennessee, and Cincinnati, Ohio, Northern Kentucky area of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. All right. That's good news. And then you did high jump, and did you guys throw the javelin in high school? We can't do that here in California. We have to wait till college.
No, we did not. In high school I was mainly a high jumper, and then I'd be in everything 4x4, 4x8s, long jump, pole vault, triple jump, whatever they needed me in, they threw me in.
So that kind of prepared you roundabout way for the decathlon, maybe, right?
Yeah. I never even thought about the decathlon in high school. I just reached out to some coaches, and that's what they wanted me for, and then kind of went that way.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, let me give you a little lead in. So, welcome to another episode of Raise the Bar. I'm your host, Troy Haynes, former jumper and now longtime coach. Creeping up there. Actually I'm thinking about doing masters competitions this year for the first time. I think I'm just waiting for everybody to get too old to compete and then I'll show up. So, but I'm
Yeah.
here today with Holden Gerth from the University. It's the University of
Mount,
Mount of Olives. Or Mount, say it again.
yeah, Mount Olive, University of Mount Olive.
University of Mount Olives. So now see, knowing my Bible, I know that there's the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem that a favorite hangout of Jesus. So I keep tripping over that one. I'm like, okay, wait, how could it be the Mount of Olives if it's not over in Israel? So, but I like the association. So and Holden, welcome to the show, man. How was training today?
It was pretty good. We had a little mock competition yesterday, so the legs are a little dead. CNS is a little shocked. Just nice and simple. Worked on the secondary event as well.
Right. So to fill everybody in, you're a high jumper and a javelin thrower,
Yes, sir.
and then possibly could fill in anywhere they needed you. Now, do you guys ever do? It's very lost here on the West Coast. Do you ever do any dual meets, or is it all just kind of the big meets where everybody tries for qualifying marks?
From what I've seen, we pretty much stay with the big meets. We're going to Virginia a lot, VTech, UVA, going down to USC, Duke. From what I've seen so far, not any dual meets, not at least for the indoor season. Maybe the outdoor though.
Right. Yeah, it's different. I was raised on dual meets, but this is back in the 80s. When I got to UCLA, Jim Bush, the legendary Jim Bush, he just passed away a couple years ago. He was in the middle of like a 2 or 3 year winning streak. So when I was a freshman, it was like, oh, we haven't lost in 2 or 3 years. And then we went up to Oregon and got our asses kicked. And man, I never seen anybody so mad. I was literally afraid of Coach Bush the next day when we were getting on the bus. Um, he was a fiery competitor, but yeah, the dual meet, the art of the dual meet is kind of lost, I think now. I think most of the kids wouldn't even know, what it is because I mean, they still kind of do it. It depends on the league. So yeah, it's weird. High school, college doesn't seem to matter anymore.
Yeah, I had a try meet back in high school one time, but that's about the closest I've gotten.
Yeah, and tri meets are weird because you can either score them, as two individual meets, or you score it as a triangular. Yeah, first time I ever did a quadrangular meet was in college at UCLA. So yeah, it's a bizarre thing. So now everybody's just trying to get you qualifying marks to whatever. So
Yeah.
now the University of Mount of Olives, is that what division of the NC2A is that?
Division two.
You guys are D2, okay?
Yes.
And the university that I coach at, this is my fourth year at Vanguard in Southern California. So we just moved up to Division 2 after being an NAIA school for forever. So it's going to be a little bit of a change for us in the level of competition out here. I don't know if you know the schools, but we got APU, Azusa Pacific is out here. Um, who else is out here? Division 2. There's a lot of smaller private schools out here that are Division 2. Chapman University,
Ooh.
um, Occidental. Uh, what else? Westmont just went to Division 2, just like we did, and they're big into all the HEP and decathlon stuff. But anyway, um, so what year is this for you there, Holden?
This is my grad year actually. It's my first year here. I spent my 4 years at Charleston Southern University. We were a private Division 1 school in the Big South. Couple pretty good teams in there.
Awesome. And then tell us your PRs, high jump and javelin.
High jump PR is 2.06. I believe that's 6'9 1/4.
Yeah,
And my javelin PR is 55.42. I have no idea what that is in feet.
I know, right? Yeah, that's like my famous trick question. I have actually started to memorize quite a few of the high jump ones, not all, but some. You'd think I'd know them all after doing it for 40 years as a coach, but in high school, I think they never really told us because I don't know if they were doing the metric then or not. This again was I started high school jumping in 1980, and
Mm,
I just remember them saying the bar's going from 6'4" to 6'6". Now, if they were going, a meter 93 exactly to get it to 6'4" ish, I don't know. If they were going 195 and it's 6'4 3/4, they never told us. Um, and the only reason I can say that I know that it was not done in any uniform way was at one of the big meets my senior year. I jumped at what out here is a big deal is CIF finals, and
mhm,
I was the only one that made 6'10". They said the bar's going up 6'10". So I made 6'10", and I asked them if they could measure it because it wasn't my first rodeo. And they
mhm.
measured it at 6'10 3/4". So it was really
Oh,
2 meters 10. And when I asked them that, I immediately went from tying my school record to owning it. So I've learned all the time that they don't always know what they're doing. We had a famous dual meet my second year at UCLA. We were jumping against a guy who was still one of the state leaders all time, Maurice Crumby. Maurice Crumby is from Northern California, so we never saw him, and I didn't never see him until I got to I think I saw him my senior year at the one indoor meet, and he just destroyed everybody. And it's like, oh yeah, that's the guy that won the state last year, and then he won the state the next year, and then I never beat that guy. He was too good, but so we're going against him in a dual meet. He's at Arizona now, and I'm at UCLA, and the bar goes 2 meters, 2.5, 2.10, and then it's going to 2.10, 2.15, 7 feet and a half inch.
yeah.
And at 7 feet and a half inch, there was a bunch of us still left in. Like a bunch of people made 6'10". And this is my sophomore year, and I think I just made 7 feet a couple weeks before for the first time. And at 7 feet, man, everybody started bombing out. Like everybody, and the jumps weren't even close. They were like it went from everybody looking kind of good to
Mhm,
everybody not even coming close to making a bar. And Crumby made it, but he made it on his third try, and it was shaky, right? So we come back, and the two older guys that were running it, they go, "Oh, sorry guys, we made a mistake. The bar was already at 215, so now we're going up to 220." And it's like, those of you that are out, you're still out. It's like, okay, great,
man.
thanks. So we skipped whatever we did. It went from actually no, I did it wrong. They didn't put up to 7 feet. They went up to 220. So they skipped
Oh,
over 215, went right to 220, which is why everybody missed. Everybody was 4 inches off. And Crumby
mhm.
had jumped 7.5, so he eventually figured it out. So then they come back and say, yeah, we're going from 220 to 225. That was my favorite. We don't know what we're doing thing of all time. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. So yeah, 55, who knows, right? Multiply by 3.3 in your head. So what, 165? Yeah, it's too intense.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So let's talk. What are you studying there in
Getting my MBA,
in what?
just a general MBA. Haven't,
General MBA.
yeah, Master's of Business Administration.
Okay. What did you study before? Were you a econ or something like that, or?
Oh, I was actually social and human sciences was my bachelor's of science in social and human sciences. So took a big old turn. I was not planning on going to grad school. My senior year, I suffered an injury to my patella tendon that caused me to redshirt the outdoor season. And I'm a 2020 grad, so I had that indoor COVID season left over. So that with my redshirt outdoor, figured might as well
Yeah.
if it's there, might as well go get a free degree.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, especially if they're going to pay for it, right?
Hmm. So
Obvious.
yeah, big
So,
turn. I didn't even take a business class in my undergrad.
right. A
So
little bit of
I
a
don't know.
wake up call. Is
Sorry.
is it hard just because you don't have the background?
Um, Not entirely. The administration here was definitely very reasonable. Um, they made sure to really work my schedule in a way to where I'd have all the material I needed, and
Right.
of course, there's a lot of piggybacking that should have been done, that I'm kind of catching up to, but it's working well. My professors are very very reasonable.
What are you looking to do with that when you get out of college?
I would love to work in the NCAA, whether in a college athletic department or within like a conference athletic department.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, anywhere in there. I've looked at being like actually before I decided I was going to do my grad year, I was uh, applying for jobs in a few universities for an academic advisor.
Hmm.
So that was kind of where I wanted to start. I'd still want to start there when I get my MBA, but maybe I can find something a little more related to that field, maybe in the marketing department or
Yeah.
somewhere.
It's so much broader. There's so many more applications to business and everything else tied together with sports. I mean, collegiate sports is now, huge money. It's just,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. Once you get TV involved, you got huge, these giant schools, you've got your in football, Big Ten, SEC stuff, right? And just
Mhm.
mega dollars. I mean, kids are getting paid now, right? In high school.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? Who's which Manning? I forget. The newest, youngest Manning is playing at
Man.
Texas. Arch,
Yes. Arch. Yeah.
Arch Manning. I mean, I think they paid him 1 million or 2 million right out of high school, and he didn't even play his freshman year. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's
going to be cool to be a millionaire and just out of high school, and you haven't even played yet. You know, so yeah, you got huge money, and that filters into both huge pressure, right? So you can be working with athletes. I remember going to my advisor, quote unquote, just because it was so hard to figure out how to maneuver through what they wanted you to get for your degree. All the different requirements. So we had, they called them breadth requirements back when I was doing it, which was like I was a science guy, but you had to take English and some arts and some this, and everybody had to have a couple of these major courses. Like everybody had to be able to write a 5 paragraph essay, and so you're
Mhm.
jumping through all these different hoops, and then it's like, okay, how do I get into my major? I was a kinesiology major and they had a list like this long of stuff you had to take. I was like, holy crap, maybe I should have done sociology. And no offense to the sociology majors, but Soc one and you were in the major. I had to take anatomy, I had to take physiology, A and B. I had to take,
Mhm.
physics and chemistry and all this other stuff. I was like, oh my gosh. It was
Yeah.
like,
I actually started in kinesiology,
mm-hmm.
so I know exactly what you're talking about. I got to chemistry and I was like, well, you know what? I don't know if I want to do all this stuff. And
Right. Yeah.
luckily my major was wasn't really out of it. I could switch over and not lose any progress.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good move. If you can, I mean, chemistry was the weed out class for sure. I didn't take it in high school, so it really hammered me, and I think I got a D plus, the first time, and you couldn't pass it with a D plus. You had to have a C minus or better. So
Yeah.
I took it again. I think I got a C plus the second time. It wasn't the math that got me. It was just I just couldn't. The questions were like, I told people later, I'm like, usually, if you're in physics, I remember in my physics classes, they would give you a page of formulas. They say, here's all the
Mhm.
formulas. Like, if you can't remember them, we'll just give them to you. It's your odds trying to pick which one you need, on a particular question. So if you're like, oh yeah, we need to find the mass of this moving object, you could be like, okay, let's see, 1/2 mv squared. Let's see, momentum has mass in it. So you're like, I don't know which formula do you pick. Man, chemistry was like one formula, but that stupid moles formula or whatever, or PV equals nRT. Yeah, I hated that stuff. And then I was scared to death of taking the what was the other lab? They had an inorganic chemistry was the one that
Oh
killed
yeah.
me. Organic chemistry, which scared me to death, was way easier because all you had to do was learn how to count to 8. It was like if you had one carbon, it was I don't even remember what they called it, but you had dicarbon, monocarbon, dicarbon, right? Once you started adding them up, when you started getting to 5, it was pentane, 6 was hexane, right? 7
Mhm.
was septane, 8 was octane. I'm like, oh, there's 8 carbons in octane. I didn't know that before. But it's like it was easy, just count and you could play these little molecules because all you had was carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, right? And you just
Mhm.
this class was a lot easier. But all right, it's not about me; it's about Holden Gerth. So, um, any goals as far as this season goes? Now, your personal best at 6'9 1/4. How you looking in the conference? What are you hoping to accomplish with this extra year?
Uh, yeah. With my PRs, I'd be projected first in both my events for this conference. Coming off injury, my main goal is really just to get back to where I was in the off season of my senior year. I was in a really really good spot. I had made a lot of technical breakthroughs. It's really really excited. So if I can get back to I was clearing 214, 211, 212 in those in that off season. So if I can get back to there, that's kind of goal A. Get back to where I was, be comfortable there, and then once I kind of reach that, then I'll see where I'm at. Keep it going.
So your
Ideally,
practice PBs are better, huh? Okay.
oh yeah, my practice PBs are a lot better. To be
Yeah.
fair, they weren't like when I was jumping my track PRs. Um, I was not really a practice jumper, but like I said, I had a really really good summer going into my senior year.
Right.
Matured a little bit, got stronger, got faster, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then the game, it's how it goes. Injury strikes, got to come
Mm.
back.
It's a
That's why
tough one.
they call it practice PBs.
What was that?
So that's why they call it a practice PB and not a PB.
Right? Yeah, it's different. I was just talking with the kid today. I shout out to Nico, a jumper who came down from Chico State for this holiday break to spend a day with me, and he's progressed quite a bit from what we were working on this summer. But I was telling him, I've been really preaching lately about knee drive. I'm like, if you're going to do anything in the high jump, you better have a good knee drive and it better be the right angle. I'll say, drive it across your hip away from the bar all the way up and then just leave it up there. I've got too many videos of great jumpers that never do anything once they drive that knee up. They just leave it alone. And Stephen Holm, it's 5'11, jumps 7'11. I got video of him knee up and across faster than anybody I've ever seen. And he just leaves it up as he floats up and over. And you're like, okay, so I don't have to, pop that hip and throw my head back really hard, anything that drastic. I watched Kerr win the high jump this year in the Olympics. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you, that jump at 7'8", when he finally just said, you know what, this jump off is over. And he runs up and you see him just bam. And I mean, his knees 3.5, 4 inches over the bar at seven,
Yeah.
8. And I'm just like going, and then he just kind of leans, he kind of looks at it and goes, oh, and he just like kind of leans his head back a little and pops his hip a little bit and he's over, and I'm just like, that's the way you should do it instead of just, you know, and I've had a rash of people that are just in the middle of takeoff. I mean, literally the foot has just hit the ground. They're not even at toe off yet. Head's already back. They're already throwing their arms back. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? The bar's just going to keep going up. You can't throw your head back right away. There's got to be a little bit of a lag in there. So
Absolutely.
how did I get to that? So we're talking about your improvements. I was going to ask you this because I had my super strong right arm who is my number one jumper from Canada is Barbara Pachoka, and she came down and jumped 187 for me a couple years ago for her, not for me, with me, and she hadn't jumped for a couple years, and she was
Really?
coming off. I don't can't remember if she ever told me if she was coming off an injury or she was just taking some time off. So when she came and started training with me, and she literally was staying in the same town that I was working in, where I was coaching and teaching, and she would just come out to the school once we were there to work. Sometimes she'd come during the day.
Mm,
Here's the keys to the weight room, And but she was just killing it. Like she was really working hard. And I'm like, hey, you have to work some days off in there. So I'm thinking this is a good time to talk with you about it because you talked about straining your Achilles. She was just working really, really hard. And I'd be like, Barb, you can't work all 4 days, 4 days in a row, do this, go to a meet, come back, work another day. I'm like, you got to work some off days in there. She's like, no, I feel great. I've had that happen to me before. I was young once too. I remember when I could train 6 days a week and it didn't really ever seem to affect me. But you don't realize how much sleep you need.
mm,
So all that research has just continued because the very beginnings of kinesiology in the 80s when I was just starting, it's just exploded, into all these different areas between, what should I eat? How should I work out? What should I wear? How do I structure my sprints, my plyos, it's like huge. And you don't realize how intense it is until you realize how much money there is, right? College and pro football, college and pro basketball. Like if you're going to pay somebody $60 million a year to play the sport that you want them to play for you and earn you both your titles and your revenue. Let's face it, these guys are out there to make money. So you make ad revenue, then you got to make sure they stay healthy, right? They got to
yeah.
make it through the season. Now it's tough to do in football, but in basketball and stuff like that, even if they're playing 4 games a week, there's got to be a place where you just go, you know what, guys, we're going to do walkthrough today. You guys can shoot around a little bit if you want. Let's look at a little film of these other guys, but we just came off of back to back, so let's take today off, and let's take tomorrow off too if we can. So it's like it's a huge, huge business. And so, Barb overtrained, and I kept
Hmm.
warning her, and she said she felt good. Right at the end of the season, man, she strained that Achilles on her takeoff leg, and she was getting to the big meets. It really paralleled my senior year. I did the same thing. I overtrained my senior year, and I got patellar tendonitis in both knees right as we were getting to the big meets. I mean, Pac-12 back then, Pac-10 finals and NC2As. And all of a sudden I got patellar tendonitis in both knees because I've been doing heavy duty plyos, which were kind of new at that time in 1986. It was like, what's a plyometric? We started doing them like crazy. And, I was loving the results, but man, all of a sudden I felt like an old man. So
Hmm.
tell our listeners, Holden, how that came about and kind of did you have any warning signs as you were getting there? And then when you got injured, what did you do after that? How'd you recover?
Yeah. So the actual injury was I had a partial thickness tear in my patellar tendon.
Uh-huh.
It started it started as some minor patellar tendonitis in my takeoff leg. Take some days off, go to the trainer, do some extra rehab. I was always very meticulous with my rehab because I've been very, very injury prone. That's actually the reason why I stopped doing the decathlon was because I tore my what's that thing called? Hip
Your
labrum.
labrum? The labrum?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I tore my hip labrum. So I've always been very, very meticulous about my rehab, getting into the trainer, doing my work. So felt some of that patellar tendonitis kicking in. Do some extra stuff, do some extra rehab. Rest well, goes away, comes back, goes away, comes back. Can't really seem to work it off. But I think the biggest thing was I never stopped jumping. I would always take off of this, take off of that, because it was my senior year. I think my coach was a little scared to take me off of jumping too much.
Right.
And, hit winter break, jumping fine, and all of a sudden it just comes back and it comes back hard. I couldn't really take off well. I think I did one or two meets just kind of jogging up. Like I couldn't even really jump well. I jumped I think I jumped 204 that season and it felt horrible. Never really like I was always scared of the bar. I was not myself. And then conference meet comes around, still jumping through it, just taking a bunch of ibuprofen and
Yep.
sitting there. And I feel it, and I'm like, I can't jump today. I think my opening bar was 194. Cleared my opening bar, and after that, I was like, I can't even walk.
Yeah.
And so, kind of bow out competition there. Unfortunately, it was my last conference championship, so I was real upset. Get an MRI. They shows a little tear in it, and okay, 5 weeks off. 5 weeks off. 5 weeks were over. Not really much is getting better. So that's when I decided to redshirt. And then I was going to be done. Coach talked to me. She was like, "Hey, you have a full year of eligibility left. You know, unfortunately, like it's so late in the year, we've given your scholarship money. We've already signed away your scholarship money, but I'll do
Right.
whatever I can to help you go somewhere else." And she did that. So here I am.
Wow. That's there's a lot of stuff in there to unpack, but I think if you haven't had this kind of injury before, to you listeners out there here on Raise the Bar, it's traditionally what Holden's talking about here is complete overuse, right? It wasn't
Sorry about that.
happen.
No.
um, the injury. There's two types of injuries that I studied in my kinesiology classes. One is overuse. So overuse injuries are also called chronic injuries, where you just keep going, you start getting some warning signs. You're stiff, you're sore, and you just go, you're supposed to tough it out. You just work through those things. Like you said, you take a little ibuprofen, you do what you got to do, you ice, everybody tells you all the things you should be doing. And you double down on your exercises, like you're saying, you go do your rehab stuff. Now I'd be pointing people to the knees over toes guy and be like, hey, put your butt against the back of the treadmill, walk backwards, do your Poliquin squats, do your tib raises, all that stuff. And yeah, sometimes you get it early enough that can do it. Other times just seems to slowly get worse, right? And you're just going along. So a chronic injury is really on the way to the other type of injury, which is a catastrophic, acute, one-time blam where something breaks and it breaks big. So that's where you get the complete patellar tendon rupture, where you get the complete ACL, whatever, getting hit sideways. Friend of mine, Doug Nordquist, great Olympic jumper, blew out his ACL just going up to dunk a basketball. After years and years of being a high jumper, years and years of, jumping at a high level, both nationally, internationally, 7, 8 and 3/4 jumper. He actually didn't jump 7, 8 and 3/4 until he blew out his knee, which is interesting. He jumped 7, 8 and 3/4 on a cadaver reconstructed left knee, which he now thinks he might have to get replaced. But shout out to Doug Nordquist. If you're listening, Doug, he's a good golf buddy now too. We go golfing from time to time, but yeah, it's just talk about it's a slippery slope. Like you said, a couple of those magic phrases, which was, I've got pain here, and you said I took the ibuprofen. I'm shaking my head, right? I did the same thing, in both high school and college. I took so much regular aspirin that I spit up blood some mornings.
Mm.
And my shins bothered me. But if you gave me even 2 days, you don't realize how when you're young how fast you really do recover. I'm here to tell you now at age 60, when stuff breaks, it stays broken for a while. It takes a while to recover. So you really got to go slow and be patient. If you think you're all the way back, you probably aren't. But so you had a patellar tear. Now, how did they tell you how intense it was? Did they tell you, you said 5 weeks didn't even put a dent in it, right? So you shut it down. Was it just complete rest? Did they go in and sew anything up? What did you do?
So at first, due to the time frame, thinking that I could come back and finish my outdoor season, um, surgery wasn't really on the table. It wasn't bad enough. It wasn't a complete rupture, just a partial thickness tear. I think they said it was like 10 millimeters. It was a relatively small tear, something that should be able to fix itself with enough time. Um, so we figured, rest, uh, maybe a cortisol shot, which I ended up not doing, would get it done.
Yeah.
Um, so it was about a week and a half to 2 weeks of complete rest, just to kind of deload everything. Then I started getting back into the exercises. Um, I had a really, really good athletic training staff. I'm very grateful for them over at Charleston Southern.
Hmm.
Um, But week 5 hits, get back into my first day of training. I'm feeling decent. Not definitely nowhere near 100%, but I'm feeling like I can go and jump. And I remember that first day back, we had nothing crazy, just some plyometrics, some bounding. Feels good, feels okay. Then we do some single leg bounding. Doesn't feel amazing, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, bang! There it goes. Didn't tear again, but ooh, I'll remember that first
Yeah.
shock.
Right. Yeah. That's and that's when, like you said, you're not going to run and jump at anything again, for a while there. It's I'm sure it's difficult. They say anytime now with knees, you're talking about tendons and ligaments. For those of you out there that don't know this stuff, your body has blood flow that is established to most of your tissues, your muscle tissue for sure, and your bones have an incredible blood supply. So when those tissues get injured, they actually heal up pretty fast. You can get scar tissue to form in a muscle, but it basically will heal. Bones, on simple breaks, once the bone remodels itself, it may actually come back stronger than it was because it's actually thicker. It lays down, layers and layers of bone where it's been broken. Now, if you get a terrible, car crash, Tiger Woods type thing where the whole lower leg is shattered, let's say, those don't always work out so well, but they will if they can piece them back together with pins and, rods and whatever. They will heal up in a remarkably short time frame just because of the blood flow. You can get, some people break their hand, right? And they'll say, oh, 6 to 8 weeks for, whatever. You don't get 6 to 8 weeks usually with tendons and ligaments. And the reason is that there's no direct blood flow to those tissues. They have,
Mhm.
at the joints, they soak in what's called synovial fluid, right? So fingers, elbows, knees, ankles, wrists, no blood flow through there. So it really slows down the ability to A, recover, and B, even build, because you got to get what do we call it? Hypertrophy of your tendons and ligaments when you train. And it's one of the reasons why, in some ways you can tell when someone's been using these performance enhancers that we all know as steroids, because somebody is using steroids, they can speed up their recovery to a point. Again, tissues and ligaments and tendons lag way behind. But muscles, man, you can get stronger faster. The muscles build, they build well, and the bones, they're building and building well because you're putting a lot of load on them, right? So when you load bones, man, they just start laying down more calcium. They get thicker. They're good. Those tendons and ligaments, you tend to lag behind, even on a
Mhm.
regular program. Somebody getting stronger without taking steroids can still kind of move ahead of their own tissues and ligaments. That's why young kids that start doing power training can start complaining of their knees and their ankles, everything, right? Because like the muscles are getting quicker and they're pulling, and the tendons are like, hey, wait a minute, we're a little bit not ready for this, So it's a real weird thing. But we didn't used to see these injuries back in the 60s of stuff like complete um, torn pectoral muscles, right? Guys are benching 450, 500 pounds. I mean, you get
Mm.
those muscles are so strong, they can actually pull the tendon out of the bone completely. An avulsion fracture. You're just like, how'd that happen? Oh, he's probably on juice. Hello. It doesn't usually happen that way. So if you're getting strong enough to rip the tendon off the bone, it's because the tendon itself didn't hypertrophy at the same rate as the muscle of the bone, So there's a lot that goes into it, but it's a good thing that you didn't have the complete patella rupture, right? Didn't have to deal with that. Excuse me. And you're just now building back. So how long has it been? Are we coming around to a year of recovery from last time? You said it was right around the winter heading in.
Yeah, from when I first started experiencing it, we're probably about a year and a week, a year and 2 weeks around there.
Yeah.
I did forget to mention I did get I got a PRP shot, platelet rich plasma injection
Right.
in that patella tendon. That helped a lot, helped me get real strong over the summer as well.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, I still have a little bit of problems with it, but nothing crazy. No, nothing close to the scope of last year. But yeah, hitting the year.
It's a tough road. I'm here to tell you that I think starting in high school, a huge pattern of overtraining for myself. I think back to My high school coach was a defensive line coach on the football team. Huge guy. We called him
Mhm.
Coach Halstead. He was like, could bench 400, huge pecs, great guy, one of my favorite coaches of all time. Well, all he ever really had us do was jump up and down the stadium steps. We would do single leg bounds all the way up, all the way down, both left and right legs, skip a steps, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And my arms and knee drive have always been good. I was a double armor. I'd drive my arms up with my knee. I practiced millions of times on those bleachers. And as far as technique, running curves, all that other stuff, like we were pretty much self-taught. We watched ourselves, we watched others. We just got a friend of mine who was a year older than I was. His dad bought a camcorder. This is like in 1981, and those camcorders were like 50 pounders that would sit on your neck, and you'd be like, oh, things like, you're literally carrying on a 50-pound plate on your shoulder. But we watched a lot of video and figured stuff out. But excuse me. Now I'm gonna do a brain trick here. My brain just shut off. Where was I going? I was talking about training, talking about you, and you're going along through. All right, we might have to circle back. Sometimes I get lost in the details of the story.
Coming up on a year, overtraining.
Overtraining. That was the key because that was the thing I wanted to warn. Your example, Barb's example, my
Mhm.
example. In high school, I completely overtrained. It
Mhm.
was we'd jump on Monday. We'd probably jump on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we would just do run throughs because Thursday was a meet.
Mm.
Wouldn't jump Friday, but would jump Saturday. So that's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And this is high school,
That's
right?
a lot.
A lot of days, right? No wonder my shins were hamburger, right? So, and one thing that some people, if you're listening and you're not a jumper, you might be wondering, why are these guys just insanely jumping over and over again? It sounds crazy to say this, but it's fun. It's high jumping is always fun, especially if
Extremely.
you're decent at it at all and you're good at jumping over and clearing it no matter what's going on. You're getting better at your drills, blah, blah, blah. But there's just the trying to get better every day. And then, didn't realize being young that you could probably get a lot of things done without grinding your shins into hamburger, pounding them relentlessly. It really was a long time for me to learn that lesson because I did it to myself in high school. Bad shin splints going into the state meet, blah blah blah. That senior year, having a great year, and I had gotten rid of all the shin splints by then because I was doing all those exercises we were talking about before. I didn't know about those in high school. Did a lot of icing, all the smart stuff, and so my shins weren't the problem. That one year, my senior year, it was purely overtraining. And you mentioned it. It's your senior year. What are you going to do? Are you going to sit back? No, you're going to go for it, man. It's my senior year. And I don't regret it. I had a really good year. It was just, man, right at the end, patellar tendonitis, 2 weeks before Pac-10s. And I went to Pac-10s, came in third. I thought I was going to win it. I don't know if I would have because the guy that won jumped 7.5 and a half. Then
Oof.
went to NC2As for the first time. I came in ninth, which wasn't bad. I had no illusions about winning. So I was actually pretty pleased, but I didn't jump anything near like I could have just even 3 weeks before. So
Mhm.
it was just a bad time to get hit with that, and I didn't realize until after I was done. That was my senior year. I'm 22 years old. I started working and doing other stuff, but I was still competing. We've talked about this on the show before. Yeah, transitioning to a real life, but still trying to compete. You're like quote unquote an elite now, and you're like, yeah, that whole
Yeah.
thing's crazy when you don't really have a support system anymore. But
Mhm.
going through that, I did learn that I didn't like to jump all the time. I started jumping about once every 10 days for technique, take the pits out. And other times I would just do my sprints, I'd hit the weights, I'd do plyos, I did the different pieces, but
Mhm.
not really for very long either, maybe an hour, hour 15, so you just start cutting back a little bit. And I think some of it is just, maybe I would have worked harder if I hadn't overworked all those other years.
Yeah.
Anything left in the tank, you know what I'm saying? So,
Mhm.
um, did you manage to find? I don't know if you saw the note from me asking you for any videos. Say if
Yeah,
you
yeah. I believe I sent them your way.
cool. Let me see if I can upload them real quick on the computer. We can take a look at you in action. Nobody wants to hear about me, man. They all want to hear about you. All right, here he is.
Yeah,
3D.
I appreciate your insight though.
Awesome. I got this. Video saved. Oh yeah, there's a knee drive. I like that. See that on that one. You come from the other side too. Man,
Yeah, righty, right
I've had a
footer.
rash the last few years. Rash sounds like a bad thing. I've had an influx or just just recently I remember doing something where I was showing a clinic that I was at, and like half the kids were from the left, right foot
Really?
left like yourself. Yeah. And somebody even commented, they go, how come all the people from the left footers? I'm like, or the right footers? I'm like, I don't know. But I told this story one time. I was that senior year that I made it to NC2As for the first time. Ooh, that was a nice jump. Um, all right, so I got to take these, send them to my computer. So when I got to, excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold. When I got to NC2A finals with 23 guys, right? We're warming up. It's the first night. They're going to cut the field to 12. There are 22 guys on the right and one on the left.
Really?
I'm like,
Wow.
looking around. I'm like, there's 22 over here, one guy over there. And I could not
That's
get a run through. I mean, it literally, you would get pinballed. People were like elbowing you, and they're like, nobody was playing nice. So
sounds about
you're
right.
like,
Yeah.
hey, get out of the way. And I said, you know what? My little Romanian coach who taught me so many things, he used to have me jump from the other leg every once in a while. Same thing we're talking about.
Mhm.
I'd be like dead leg, right? And he goes, hey, let's just call this here, or you can jump off your other leg. And the first time he said that, I'm like, what are you talking about? Jump off my other leg? I've never jumped off my other leg. It's you back, go other side. He's little Elias. He's a Romanian. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, whatever. I'm jumping like 5 feet. I've already jumped. And this is after he's already trained me to jump 7.3 1/2 my senior year. I'm like going, what are we doing? But I couldn't think around corners like that. And I
Mhm.
realized later, I think it had a lot of value for not just keeping you safe from yourself and overtraining the leg, but possibly cross wiring in your head. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know how to say it, like learning a different skill. What? Hold on, please. I gotta move you a little bit. Okay. I gotta move this. I gotta get this thing to the desktop. All right, here we go. I don't need
I
that.
have heard about that though, with like the training the opposite side. It can help improve you. My trainer would have me do that when I was dealing with my knee. He'd have me
Yeah.
kind of do it with my left leg, because the wiring, yeah, like translates to the other leg.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because your brain is so, people don't even realize, that they haven't studied it, but we're completely left and right brained. So if you do
Mhm.
something with your right hand, it's your left side that controls it, and vice versa, right? Well, I didn't know, but when I was a kid, I'd be eating and I'd get bored eating because I'm a slow eater. So I'd be eating, and then I'd start resting my hand on my elbow on the table. And my mom's, don't put your elbow on the table. I'm like, okay. And so I would switch hands and eat with the other hand. She goes, what are you eating with the other hand for? I'm like, well, you said I can't put this on the table. Well, so I was a little bit ambidextrous. Like I didn't realize at the time, just a little. Cause I had a friend in junior high and high school who was a really good baseball player. Tony Felicione, if you're ever listening to this, shout out to Tony Felicione. He played baseball at Cal State Long Beach. Sweet left-handed swing, could hit the ball a ton, right? And of course, I would pick up a bat and go, hey, I want to try left-handed. I couldn't hit a ball left-handed. It was terrible. Couldn't throw a ball left-handed. I couldn't kick a ball so um, anything like that. But the weirdest thing was when I did that with Elias, we went for a couple weeks doing that. And I don't even remember why the emphasis was, but again, in his wisdom, I went to a meet, and I was out of school by now, so I'm at one of the elite meets, but it was one of those all comers where they opened a bar at 3 feet, and
Mhm.
I'm sitting there, stewing. And I'm like, so the bar got to like 5 feet, and I go, okay, I'm going to open, but I'm going to jump off my other leg. I had the bright idea. I said, let's put Elias's thing to work. So I'll just jump until I miss on my right leg. Well, what I found out was my right leg was a lot fresher. I had a
Mhm.
better layout from the other side, which was weird. But, for whatever reason, I did a couple things better from the other side. So I came up and went 5 feet, they were moving in 3 inch increments. So I went 5 feet, 5 3, 5 6, 5 9, 6 feet, 6 3, and made 6 6 off my right leg before I missed.
Wow.
And then I switched over and jumped 6 9, 7, and almost made 7 3. And I was like, huh, that was weird. And it was like, I believe there was a lot of that cross wiring going on and
Mhm.
learning things from a different angle. Try running backwards. Tried. Elias used to have me do this. Now, again, this is Baru Elias, and he's left us, God bless him, but I think he was way ahead of his time in a lot of things. And one of the things we used to do was do all those, the A skip, the B skip, the C skip, D kicks, butt kicks, and then butt kicks cycling, blah, blah. And then he would go, now run backwards. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Run backwards. Don't just shuffle your feet. Try to cycle. Try to look the same way going forward as you do going backwards, or same way looking backwards as you do look going forward. And all you have to do with the videotape is run it backwards, and you go, how close does it look? And it's amazing, but it's different, and I think it wires and does different things for you. So, yeah, an interesting idea. I don't know if it's interesting to hear you say that, someone told you that there's a possibility that does these certain things for you, which I would chime in and say I would suspect that's true, but I don't know if there's any research, that kind of thing. All right, we're going to share. I'm going to show Holden desktop. I think I'm already on the desktop. Okay, listen. Can you still see me? And can you see this? All right, what am I doing here? Oh, I got to hit share. There we go. All right. You still see me there, Holden?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, and now I'm going to make this as big as I can. It's getting bigger. Move it over here. Oh, yeah, still stretching. There we go. Now we're talking. How about down? No, that was it. All right, so this is Holden Gerth. It's purple. Is this TCU by any chance?
It is High Point University.
Ah, that's a good guess. Okay. Kansas State would have been another one, right? They're purple. All right.
Yep.
And you got a power bounty start, looks like. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't cycle right away. This is a European run in, right? A little bit of a European run in. And then boom, you hit your mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. So you start your curve here. 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5. All right. And let me get this little thing out of the way. I can't see. Okay. So we're coming in fast and bam. Oh, wow. Look at that knee drive come across. This is one of the things I can tell from the backside. If you can see the knee drive come across from the backside, it must really be good, especially from this angle. It would be increased as if I was closer to the bar plane. But even from this angle, you can see it's well past your hip. So I saw that knee drive right away, but this is really, really good. Point out a couple things to you viewers out there. Number one, I love the acceleration in since the approach is only 8 steps, right? 1, 2, 3 power boundy, a la Derek Drown, right? From Canada. Sotomayor had the power bound start. There's a few out there. Once you do get onto the curve, though, you start cycling. There's your foot kicking in the butt, right? Foot kicks in the butt, foot kicks in the butt, slide step, and foot again kicks you in the butt. Bam, right up into that knee drive. That is huge, monstrous knee drive. And then, wow, really nice layout position too. So, do you know what height this was at?
205, so 6'8" and three
3/4.
quarters.
Yeah, nice. And I like really fast gather right here, hands together, and boom, back behind you, which I believe helps you lean back and right back and to your right in the curve. If the farther they are behind you, I have a struggle sometimes. I tell people I like to get them to reach right here where your elbows are bent. Like if you can even extend them back a little, because I like to get that longer strike with the arms. But it depends on how fast you're moving too, right? If you look like you're pretty good speed for a double armor. Oh,
Yeah.
cycling is really good. This is another element I like to. It's hard to teach, but it's crucial. So if you watch your curve start right here as you push off with your left foot, that's the first time you cycled that foot, right? All the other times were power boundies, low, like you driving that foot low, drive that foot low. But here comes that. Now you're starting to recover. Okay. What is the difference? I keep telling everybody, I go, when you go push, 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 power bound, power bound, power bound, that's just like getting out of the blocks. That's like shorter. Now they can get longer because Derek Druin, when he did it, man, they were getting long with that too, but it was definitely acceleration related, right? It's getting up to speed. You did the shuffle and now you're doing 3 fast, powerful, low driving steps to get going. And then when you get on the curve, now you start to really accelerate, continue to accelerate. But in order to do that, your strides have to lengthen a little bit. And that's why the cycling is so huge. And so right here, foot to the butt with your left, and then your left again. Now here's what I call the slide step. That one really shouldn't come all the way to your butt because you want to get it back on the ground fast, slide it
Mhm.
out in front of you and stop you so you can go up, right? Which you do a good job of there. And then again, the last one on the left, that foot, man, all the way through. The reason this is so important, I talked with Doug Nordquist about this no more than a couple weeks ago. I talked with my old coach, Alan Hankel, about it, and we're teaching it to kids in clinics. And I'm like, look, to make sure that your stride length stays the same, first of all, you need to be cycling every step. You know, people talk about, why is my run always inconsistent? I'm like, well, maybe you're not cycling your feet, right? If you don't cycle your feet, your stride length's going to change. And depending on how
Mhm.
fast you started, you may not end up in the same spot, right? Even if you're doing a real similar acceleration pattern. So I'm like, you got to get everything going full blast. But I think right here, man, that last part there where that foot comes up and kicks you in the butt before it goes into your knee drive, that makes your leg so much shorter, right? When it cuts in half, it really comes across fast. And for those of you that are watching this out there, this knee drive back into the curve that you see from Holden right here is the number one element I would suggest. If you're having any trouble, you're wondering why you can't get your back all the way to the bar, you're going over sideways, all these weird things are happening to you, you need to slow down for a while and figure out how to get that knee drive to come across you. And it'll buy you time for you to do what you have to do on top. Okay. At 6'9" here, I'd like to get you a little bit farther out. I think
Yeah, I was real close on that run.
yeah. Yeah. It's just a little bit tight, which is what you really could have rode your knee all the way up to the bar. You almost got it there and you kind of were forced to lay out because
Mhm.
you're running out of room. So your brain will take over and go, hey, riding it up is a great idea, but we're out of room. So we got to do this now. That's an impressive jump. All right, let's go into the well. I'm going to pull up another one here. I'm going to make it big again. That was a good video too. Very solid. All right, let's go. Oh, other corner. Keep forgetting you're coming from this side.
Yeah.
All right. And now where do you remember where this one is at? This looks indoors.
Yeah, this is USC my senior year when I was jumping through my injury. So this is gonna be a very, very different video. It's gonna be a little really goofy compared to the other one.
Little ugly. Yeah. Was this you say USC, is that South Carolina?
Yeah, yeah, South Carolina.
South Carolina, right? So that's an SEC school. I can see that as we're going by there. So that's a SEC school. All right. Oh yeah, you can see you're limping. Got a big brace on it too.
Yeah, I got a brace, a patella band, and a sleeve over it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is even. I love this angle though. So there's a lot of things we can learn watching you from the other side. The backside, like we just saw there, yours was a pretty good angle. Gave us a good lean away, and watching the cycling on your feet was easy to do. What I really like about this angle, and here I'd like to be a little bit, maybe 5 degrees off the bar.
Mhm.
I'd say this might be like 30, but you can see a lot from here. You see how your leg is coming through here and at heel strike right here, boom, boom. I really love this. Okay. See what Holden's doing here with the heel strike here for a double armor. I think it's very important to do both of these because notice all the way out here how you're on your toes.
Mhm.
Sprinting on our toes, sprinting on our toes, sprinting on our toes, sprinting on our toes. Now, heel toe, heel toe. I'm telling you, I hear little Elias's voice in my head like my little Yoda, and he's like, "You, big guy, you must lean back, heel toe, last two, heel toe." I'm like, What do you mean heel toe? Heel toe. I'm like, oh, you want me to roll? Yeah, roll your feet, roll, don't stomp. So I just most of the time I just did what he said, or
Mhm.
I tried to tried to understand what he because his English wasn't that great. Like I said, sometimes there was miscommunications, but generally he figured it out. But that was one of the ones that I really took to because I always picture it as you're tilting the flaps back in the airplane, right? Right as you get to the takeoff, that heel toe helps me lean back. Anytime I get my athletes, any one of them, it doesn't matter what level they're at. Okay. I remember teaching this to Barbara. So it was like, hey, when you get to here And you can already see how your upper body is already starting to lean back, even though you're at full speed on the curve, right? And flying
Mhm.
around, it's starting to lean you back, and even more so there at the heel strike. Now, I'd like to get your upper body lined up even more with that leg. That's going to be hard because of that slide step. And again, you're like you said, you're probably like not really trusting it.
Mhm.
So we're seeing the cycling from the other side. Notice this great heel strikes. Boom, heel to the butt. There's your slider, and bam. Yeah, look at that knee drive. And see, you just leave it there. That's awesome. Still a little early. See right here, I can't tell. It's
Yeah.
tough because your head
Had
goes
to-
down. Your head's going down. It's not going towards the bar. So I would say technically you had to have broken the bar plane, right? The vertical bar plane. Because your head, even if you did start it back, let's say it is early, which I think you're actually just riding here. Once you break the plane, you go straight down into that arch. So, and you get good rotation. Look where you're landing. You're almost all the way around. Dang it, dude. That's really solid. Then this angle right here, you can see your foot, your straight lower leg here, and the other leg like this at that
Mhm.
45-degree angle. That's it's almost perfect. I mean, if I was really gonna get, I would try to get your knee across all the way up to hip height, but that angle is to die for right there because it buys you time. And you can say the other one I said you're too close. This does not look like that case here.
Yeah, this one was more the opposite. I was way, way further than I normally take off from.
Yeah.
That's I definitely had to like lay out for it.
Well, if you one thing I can say cite as an advantage is if number one, if you don't panic, is you can be sure that you're going to get every bit out of your center of mass height before your layout if you're farther away. If you're too
Mhm.
close, the peak height of your center mass sometimes is behind the bar plane, right? Because you're just too close. Your parabola is off. Once we leave the ground, we're just little human projectiles anyway. So however much force you put into the ground, you get you so much air, you're going to go up, you're going to come back down. And it generally has that nice, pretty parabolic shape to it, no matter what you're doing with your layout. So it's
Mhm.
like, but if that arc is behind the bar, you got to do some finagling to get over it. Now, if you're too far out, you're going to go up and come down on the wrong side of the pit, we're in big trouble. Then you took off 8 feet out and you're not going to make the pit. But here you can see, even with that, as far out as you were, once you go up, bam. And I would say, I mean, there's your peak center of mass and it's right over the bar. So, if somebody was arguing he's too far out, I'd beg to differ. And it doesn't look, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Did you have to pull really hard here or did you just a little? It's hard to tell.
I kind of had to whip it.
Yeah.
I had to get it over pretty fast.
Well, I like this position here is really fantastic. I'd put a big circle in green around you because I like the
Mhm.
position. Did you ever experiment with getting your hands back to your hips, um, either faster? Did you reach or did you? Yeah, you're getting them back right here. So I would say the only thing different maybe here. I love watching the differences in style because you're a double armor. The inside
Mhm.
arm gets up, that outside arm looks like it's kind of pointed across at the plane of the bar, right? So it almost looks like a single arm. And right here, I'm thinking, oh, he's just going to reach that hand for that heel, right? But then you pull them back. You pull them both back late. So I always tell everybody it's one or the other. You got to reach for the heel or get them back. But the last thing you want to do is leave them out, right? If you leave them
Right.
out, now your body's too long, you won't spin. So you got to either connect, excuse me, or bring them back. Wow. And this is on a bad knee. Holy crap.
Yeah.
What was his height?
204. So 6'8" and a half.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, it's only 2 centimeters below your PR, and you're jumping on a soon to be thrash knee,
Yeah, this was yeah, as I was saying, bit of a disappointing season from where I was in the fall.
right?
I
Oh,
think
well,
I jumped twice. I jumped at either 2 or 3 meets this indoor season, and the rest I had to sit out.
uh-huh. Okay, let me see. These guys all came together in pieces here. What's going on? I know I brought them in pieces. Why can let me double check. What's this one? Okay, those two I've already closed, right? We
Mhm.
did that. We did that. So maybe this is the last one. No? No? Okay, that's not working. Yeah, you can tell I'm a dinosaur when it comes to computers. Okay, wait a minute. Uh, Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay, let's close these out. Excuse me.
Hmm.
I hate coughing at people. Okay, that can get smaller. Yeah. Is that the video? No, that's the zoom. Leave that. This is why I edit everything later. It takes a long time because I'm a dinosaur. All right.
Yeah, the other
I,
two jumps, my two PB jumps.
why can't I just grab these and separate them? They're coming together in pieces. Okay, was this one?
Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah,
This might be the other one then. Okay, because it's skinnier. Okay, this might be okay. Let's see.
yeah. This is one of my 206s.
Yeah, see, it's not getting any bigger. It's gonna be narrow view. All right, that's it. I'm gonna put it here in the middle.
Hmm.
All right, so at 206, boom, power bound start. Oh, look at that knee drive. Love it. Yeah, see here, this again looks to me like you might be a little too close just because of when your head's already going back and the knee's still rising. But
Hmm.
man, really get into a great position there. I had never had anything like that. I'm just here to tell you, I was the rare white guy with a lot of hops, and I did not have a lot of flexibility. I had to work really hard for the little bit that I had, but I would have killed to been in a position like that. Absolutely killed it.
I appreciate it.
Very solid. And see right here, there's my argument. See how on this one in particular, your hands are back to your hips, right?
Hmm.
As you're in that position. It looks like this guy right behind me, right? Except the hands are already down on your hips. And when you're in that position, my thought is as soon as your head gets lower than your heels, the jump's over. You're just going to spin out and you're fine. You don't even have to pull out of those. You don't have to
Yeah.
put your feet because you're just spinning around and, rotating perfectly around the bar. You don't even need to pull. You just stay in that position if you can, So if you watch, boom, right there, you're there. I think you might have just gone all the way around. It's hard to break that habit though. We're so used to pulling, you know.
Hmm.
But
I definitely didn't pull as hard on. This was like my junior year. The jumps were coming out a lot cleaner. I didn't really have to pull. It was more just like a little heel
yeah,
flick
yeah.
safety measure.
A lot of that has to do with that side lean and the speed, because it looks like you're really hauling the mail. You look like you're blurring to me sometimes. So if you're moving very fast, getting that good lean back angle, then you're going to fly up to that vertical really quick. And that's what gives us this. And we start to spin. And I think the knee drive is paradoxically going to add to that because I think it's in some ways it slows this down and kind of extends it up, but it also keeps you from just going right across. Like I demonstrated a bunch of times just recently. I'll say, hey, you guys that think you can jump while you're leaning towards the pit, I said, watch. And I have them line right there at the bar length, and I'll run back and I will literally drive my knee, my head, and everything towards the bar. And I can almost make it out of the back of the pit, but only like 2-3 feet in the air. You get no air. You just go sideways. I'm like, so if you want to figure out why it is that you're not going up, I like to demonstrate using physics and go, let's just do the wrong thing at full blast and see what happens. Bail right across, almost take out everything and almost fall out of the back of the pit. I'm like,
Hmm.
now as you start bringing that knee around more and more and more, and you're leaning farther and farther away, it's just going to slow this down in some ways and let you finish. And the whole idea is to hit vertical at takeoff and then, figure out your timing from there, right? How long can you go up before you do whatever you do? So can share this with us too, Holden. This is, you can tell my brain's always in the lab. I remember doing a bunch of different things. There were jumps when right after takeoff, if I didn't feel it, I might have thrown my head back as hard as I could, eyes closed. Who cares? I'm just trying desperately to get over the bar because I know I didn't get it on that takeoff. Like third attempt, come up, boink, and you're like, that's not going to get it. Oh,
Yeah.
crap. I throw my head back really hard, bam. But I don't remember what I'm looking at. Desperation move, right? Um, are you, when you're coming around the corner here, okay, so here you are from the start. Now, as you're coming up, most people would say, what are they looking at when they're running straight? Roughly your turn mark, right? I'm running,
Hmm.
and I try to tell my guys, look, you need to run right at it. Don't wander. Don't wander out to your left, right? Because that's going to screw up your curve. It's not consistent, right? I want to go right there, drop in, go. But once you start running on a curve, when you are coming up and getting ready to jump, do you, not when, but as you are now, do you find yourself looking at the bar? Do you look at the standard? Do you not notice what you're looking at? How does it work?
I I look at right where the bar is like resting on the standard normally.
On the
I
left or
don't
the right
really
side?
yeah, off to that right side. I don't never really thought about it, but once I kind of realized, I got into a habit of like, okay, so this is when I can drop my shoulders. Like I'm a short guy. I'm 5'10" on a good
Right.
day. So as I'm coming up to that bar, if I drop my shoulder, it's game over. It doesn't matter what the bar's at.
Right.
So whenever I'm popping up and I see like my eyes get to the kind of where that mark is, where the bar is resting on the standard, that's when I'm like, okay, let me drop my head back.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So my second coach, the one who coached Doug Nordquist at 236, is Alan Hankel, and he was trying to get me to do a better job of hitting vertical, and he was trying to get me to look at the far standard and use the far standard as that vertical reference point, so that you could go up and literally, I'm trying to teach my guys now to jump inside of it, so that your body lean is perfectly away this way. And if you can
Mhm.
even fire your knee that way, the way you do, and even your hands and everything coming up and away from the bar, I figure physics just straightens that out and you're going straight up eventually, right? And then you
Yeah.
do what you got to do after. But I think I just had a young gal today as she was running towards the bar. I'm going, okay, lean away. And then, the bar's over here. I'm like, lean away. She immediately within 3 steps her head went the other way.
Yeah.
Her head turned towards the bar. And after that, in the middle of takeoff, her eyes, I go, what are you looking at? I showed her the video. What are you looking at up here? You can't even see the bar. You don't even know where you are. At this point, it's blind faith, like that everything's going to work out okay. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to get them used to, consistency. What are we looking at? Let's use a visual cue. Like when I watch Barshim, to me, it looks like number one, he's farther out than anybody I ever remember watching when he's on the peak of his game
Mhm.
and behind the standard, which is just freaks me out. But he goes up through vertical, always really, really good. And he just seems to be the master of riding. Like he does not try to lay out early because the guy's jumping what did he jump? 243? Bunch of
Yeah.
times. I mean, when he was on, when he was younger and he just came out, he flirted with the world record quite a bit. He
Yeah.
was one of the few guys that would put it up at 245, 246, and he's come up, bam, but he would jump inside, but he's so far away from the bar plane that he would just wait as he was
Mhm.
going up. And then I'm watching him, I'm thinking, what is he looking at? And some of the angles, it looks to me like he would be looking to see if his head had broken the plane and if he could see the back of the bar. I figured that was about the time. Now I know there's a time lag in between what we see and what we can react to, right? Just like your reaction time in your car to from your brake to your gas or vice versa. You're like, so there's got to be a little bit of anticipation there. But I'm like, anyway, I think the visual cue is huge. And at the same time, I tell the kids, I go, there's plenty of people I've seen them with their eyes closed, head back, eyes closed, and they jump high heights too, right? So I'm always curious to find out what somebody's looking at. For you to jump, you said you jumped 214 in practice. When you
Yeah,
jump, what was that? Say it again.
214.
214, right? And then 211 some other times. And 211 is like 6'11 and a half, right? So
Yeah.
210, 6'10, 3/4, 211, 6'11 and a half, 212 is like 6'11, 3/4, 213, 7 feet and a quarter. So 214 is 1 1/4, 1 1/2. I can't remember how it goes. Anyway, what do you think is the difference? And that was a couple of years ago. You said you're still working your way back there, but did you think about what the difference was when you did jump those heights in practice? What was it that you were doing? Because I would usually attribute higher jumps at meets to adrenaline, but you don't usually get that adrenaline in a meet setting. So what was different?
Yeah, so the biggest difference is technique wise. In these videos, I get really squatty in my penultimate step. I learned how to stay a lot taller through my penultimate step, carry more speed into it, hit the ground with a little more power, just
Yeah.
lose a lot less energy in general. But also a huge part of it was I put like 30 pounds on my hang clean, power clean. I put like 50 pounds on my squat.
Yep.
I went from like probably an 11.4 to close to like a 11.1, 11 flat 100. That last one's a complete estimate. I have no idea what I'd run in
Right.
100, but I got a lot faster and I
Faster.
felt a lot
Yeah.
faster. So
Yeah.
definitely some technical things. Just I felt more comfortable. I did start taking off a little further away from the bar, like you were saying, like you saw in that one video as well.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think the biggest like technical change I made was just staying a little taller through my penultimate, carrying more energy into it.
That's amazing too, because you know, it's so funny. I had the same thing today. We did a beginner clinic basically at this one high school, and I'm having them do one step. And one step, they were leaning forward, dropping their arms down, and bending their leg. I'm like, okay, all three of those things are wrong. So when you're standing there, I want you to stay tall, lean to your left. I said, if you're ever going to get shorter for me, I don't want you to do it by hunching down forward and bending your takeoff leg. I want to get that leg as straight as possible and lean you back to match it. Right. And then if you're going to get shorter, I told him the only way I want you to get shorter is to stay tall and lean to your left. And that's a logical conundrum for these kids, because they're like, how can I get shorter by staying tall and leaning? I'm like, well, you want to be here. Your body will just represent you as a stick. You want to be here, but you can have your head be closer to the ground over here, but you're still the same height. You're still tall and long and cycling through there. You just let your body turn at your ankles. You see a lot of people try to lean through their ribs, right? They'll just kind of lean their upper body away. Like, I don't think that's as effective. I've seen some people get away with it, but it's like, so yeah, everything you're saying there, it makes sense. And I'm thinking, as I'm watching you, I see just a ton of potential. If you can get the squat power that you mentioned, I remember I went from, when I was playing football, I think I was 6'3" and 180, and I squatted 240, which wasn't much, is what, 1.5 times my body weight. Not even that. Yeah, less. I think I benched more than I squatted.
Mm.
And then my freshman year, I went from 6'3", 180 to 6'3", 195. I put on 15 pounds that first year in the dorms. And you tell me, what do you think? If I didn't increase my power and put on 15 pounds, what happened to my jumping ability?
Yeah, it's down to the drain.
It went down the drain in a hurry. I jumped 6'6" the first meet because I was just so jacked up for our first home meet. But after that, I don't think I jumped 6'8", maybe once. I don't really think so. And it was terrible. The whole year was terrible. And I remember getting back after that freshman year, and I'm like, oh man, I'm a walk on here at UCLA. And coach told me I got to jump 7'2" if I want a scholarship. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And didn't have a coach yet, was working with the other two guys, but I went into the weight room because we did have a great weight room at UCLA. And I just happened to, during the summer, there were very few people there. So, because most of the sports aren't on in the summer,
Yeah,
had my run of the weight room, and I got my squats up to 400. I went from 240 to full back squats 400. And that
awesome.
next year I jumped 218. So, and you talk about, technical improvements a little. I'm sure I ran a better curve and I did this and that, but I struggled handling more speed. I did get faster too, like you did. I ran a 5 flat, like Tom Brady kind of 40 at the
Yeah.
combine. Like I was a 5 flat in high school, and all the guys would make fun of me. They go, "I thought you ran track, dude." And I'm like, "I'm a high jumper, man. I'm not a sprinter."
Oh
So I
yeah.
always defend myself. I had long legs and I didn't have enough power to turn them over very fast. So I was just, I'd lope up there and do what I did. But yeah, when I squatted 400, all of a sudden that 40 time dropped quite a bit, a lot more power, and within reason, I think as long as you do it correctly and you keep, some plyos in there, you can't just lift, heavy all the time. We did do some hang cleans also, and step ups and lunges, So I'm a big believer in the single leg stuff now. I like to
Yeah.
transition from 2 legs to single legs on everything. But yeah, that power increase you're talking about, that's huge. So if you had any aspirations of continuing, I think with that knee drive that you have and the flexibility that you have on top, added with, you're smarter, you've been through, and you come through the crucible, you come through the fire, you've been tested by the fire. So now
Mm-hmm.
you got to be pretty smart. You got to listen to your body more when it's telling you little things, right? But it's like, and maybe a little less here and there as you're going through, maybe a little more rest, blah, blah, blah. But I don't see any reason why you couldn't jump like 215, 220 with that kind of positioning on top. And at
That's the
only
goal.
5'10", that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's the goal. If I can get back to where I was and a little better, break my practice PR in a real meet. If I can get that done, get at least get close to like qualifying for a USA's, then being that's the one thing. That's one big reason why I'd be really open to working in a university setting. Being able to have access to that weight room, that track, maybe a volunteer coach. I love the sport. I'd love to coach a little bit. So if I
That's
got back up to those decent heights, I might try and give a year post collegiate, see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this year's senior year, which is going to be 2025. Then
Hmm.
3 years is a long time to wait for the Olympics, but there's
Yeah,
I've
more
had
so like US the US championships for the world championships or that new ultimate championship
yeah,
coming up. Yeah, I'm not really too worried about making any teams, but I'd love to be able to say I competed at the US championships.
that would be awesome. And the other thing that you'll never be tired of is telling somebody that you broke 7 feet. It doesn't mean anything in
Of
Europe, but over here it's huge, right? So, and you've
course.
jumped 214 in practice, so it's like it's a whole nother level.
Yeah, well, that
Well,
was that
hey,
was a great practice.
Holden, I really really appreciate you spending time with us. I love watching your video. You're one of the young breed of so many guys. Just recently, I did a podcast recently. I'm still processing it. I don't know if you've seen Marcus Gelpi on here. He went to Kansas State last year, and now he's with those three guys at what is it called? Grand Valley. I think it's Grand
Grand
Valley.
Valley State.
Yeah, so it's a D2 school, but there's three guys that made the trials last year, right? Well,
Yeah.
Marcus is already jumping 218, so they might, end up with four guys jumping over 7.3 here pretty soon. But every time I watch those guys' videos, Marcus just keeps getting better and better. They got a really good coach there. I'm trying to get him to come on a pod, but those guys, when I broke down their videos, are just doing a lot of great things, and I usually am able to poke a few holes and everything. The meanest thing I can say about you is that you were a little bit too close to the bar on that one jump. And other than that, the heel toe, knee drive across. What I'm going to send you one video. I got a kid I want you to watch who's is a decent comp for you because he's only in high school right now. Jordan Randall. You can look him up on Instagram, and his dad posts a lot of his stuff. As a freshman in high school, he jumped 6'8" and 6'9" indoor and out, right? And he's only 5'8", dude. He's 5'8", and he's
Wow.
fullback. He's got big legs and he's real fast, but he's not a long strider because he's only 5'8". But we're working on his cycling, right? We've done a couple video things. We've talked over some things. I said, hey, he's got a just like you too, man. When you see his head go down, his hips come up, and he's in that nice bridge. Really good layout, great internal timing. And you mentioned something that I find really interesting, and that it can only be experienced by someone who's shorter. Is that you guys are used to jumping at bars that are way over your heads, so you can't be in a hurry, right?
Hmm.
To ditch your knee drive or throw your head back. You're used to milking that sucker. You got to wait a while. Taller guys don't have to work as hard, right? They just have to get their heads over the bar and they can do whatever they want. I used to be envious of all those guys who are 6'5" and 6'6", like Fabian Delrid. Followed this guy from Sweden. He's 6'9". His
Yeah, I've heard of
video, he jumped 7'7", and he told me it was 7'7". I go, it's 7'7". I go, that doesn't look like it's more 7'2". He goes, yeah, but I'm 6'9". I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, that's like cheating. So Mogenberg, that one video that I was showing the guys before, knee up and across. So, he was 6'8" and he maybe weighed a buck 50. I mean, he was a cadaver running up to the bar. So
Wow.
yeah, but the Jordan video, the other thing I was telling you is when he gets that's the one thing I was going to say was the hands. I'd like to get them all the way up and fast if possible. So I'll throw that at you and I'll send you the video and you
All
can
right.
watch Jordan and go, yeah, you can at that speed actually finish the hands all the way up. And that in my mind is just the same as, if you were going to do a 60-inch box jump, you might get away with hands here. As the box
Mhm.
goes up to 72 inches, it's just like jumping up to like, hammer a big spike or, if you're going to jump up and grab the rim with both hands and they moved it from 10 feet to 11 feet, right? It'd be like, oh, I got to leave these up here, right? Big change in center of mass. But yeah, that's just me popping off. Thanks for sharing those. That they're awesome. I'm gonna if I can take the liberty of copy them into my files because there's a couple things you do there that I can use to teach others. The heel toe is exceptional on the last two steps for a double armor, um,
Hmm.
and the attack speed. You're really moving. You can tell. That's one thing I've noticed about not calling you short. You said yourself you're 5'10". Shorter jumpers, you just got to run. I mean, it's very rare that you're going to see somebody just kind of bouncing up there, right? La, 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 and then boing, right? And jump over stuff. They exist. They piss us all off because they make it look too easy. But, it's rare, but in general, like when you watch Stephen Holm, I'm sure he's got to be a guy you like watching. He was 5'11", jumped 7'11". He was hauling. He was running at the bar.
He's fast.
And he was a single armor, right? I think the faster you run, you almost kind of morph to a single, but it's just too hard to get those arms together and backing up when you're running full speed. But hey, really appreciate your time, man, and really enjoyed watching you in action. Do us a favor of checking in from time
Hmm.
to time. I'd love to promote you, have you show your videos to be, hey, here's what's Holden just did this the other day, and
Yeah,
keep you in
absolutely.
our sights as you go in through these great you guys got indoor season coming up, right?
Yes, sir. We got our first meet in 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. Send me some videos, man. I'm a total video holic. I'll watch it. And if you don't mind me telling you what I think, otherwise you can just say, hey, just watch and don't say anything. All right. Keep your mouth shut.
Oh, I'm always open for the advice. Always.
All right. All right. Well, hey, greatly appreciate your time. Have a great Thanksgiving. Say hi to everybody back there at the University of Mount of Olives. It sounds like the kind of place I need to see
Yeah,
soon.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, sir. You have a good one. We'll check in on you in a little bit.
For sure. Yep.
All right. Thanks, Holden. And that's going to wrap it up here on Raise the Bar. Another episode. We have just spent a little over an hour talking with Holden Gerth. He's from the University of Mount of Olives in North Carolina. And after recovering from a patellar tendon slight problem just a year ago, is rehabbing and is coming back for another year. He's got another year due to COVID. So just a great talk with this young man. He's got really good technique. He's only 5'10", and man, he runs tall, cycles well, does a lot of things that I teach as points of emphasis. The heel toe, heading into takeoff, knee up and across, getting farther away from the bar, waiting, till he gets to his peak height, which might be easier for shorter guys when they learn that it takes them a while. Once they're jumping at bars over their head, I don't think that ever goes away. You kind of have to learn to wait as the bar goes up, because if it's eye level, it's almost like, oh, I can throw my head back right away, right? But if it's not, you kind of learn. So anyway, just good luck to Holden coming up. He's going to check back in with us here. He says his first meet is in a couple weeks, and it'll be great to see how he's doing at that point, how his legs are holding up. Hopefully his knee is going to stay sound, and we will check in with him from time to time for sure. So until next time, probably sometime next week after the holiday, we'll do another episode of Raise the Bar. Until then, you have yourselves a good evening and a good Thanksgiving.